Hi greedy 3Ders, today I am wearing my Star Wars t-shirt, which can mean only one thing. Yes, today we're going to be making something from Star Wars. I'm going to show you how I made this. This is the Han Solo bust that I got free from Cults 3D. I'm going to show you how I painted old Han Solo up, this scruffy nerf herder, and I'll show you the whole process I took. Now if you like all things 3D printing, I always say the same. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and enjoy the making of Mr. Han Solo. Let's add some primer. Now you can see I've had some damage on him there, which I had to repair with a little bit of milliput. And also, as you can see here, there's some more damage, which I'm going to leave in situ, as I think I'm going to get away with this as being part of the model, even though we know it's not. I'd be really keen to know why you think this damage has occurred. And have you experienced similar? What did it for you guys? And rather than give you all my settings, I just want to hear what you think about some of the damage that you see here and what we can potentially do to put it right. But I used some milliput just to seal the little holes that were in him around by his head and his ear, and I'm going to give it a base layer of the matte black primer from the Air Army Painter range. Now I'm going to use the white air primer, exactly the same from the Army Painter. I'm just going to hit him from the top and give him a zenithal shade all the way down. If you don't know what a zenithal shade is, it's just basically a coat of white over black, but coming down on the model from the direction that natural light source would hit, and this way it creates the natural shadows which you would see in the model were it in a normal natural light source. Just give it a blast over with that, and we'll move on to the next stage. I'm going to be using some of this Nomad flesh. I'm just going to put one base layer of flesh down, and I'm going to do it in the same way that I did the zenithal white, from the top down. What I am going to make sure I do though is ensure that all areas of this model have at least a light coat of the skin colour on. So I'm going to concentrate so I'm coming down and in from the light source, but once I've done this, I'm going to turn him around to make sure that even the darker areas have a light shade of skin colour on. Now to start the washes, and the first wash is going to be a yellow. I'm using Imperial yellow, one drop with some water to water it down to a wash, and I'm just going to flick him all across with this watered down yellow. Try not to make it too thick, we don't want to turn him yellow, and also just allow about 10 minutes to dry in between coats, otherwise you're going to end up with runs. I'm using the pure red now, but any red would do. One drop with some water, well swished down, and exactly the same thing with the red to give him a layer of red, followed by blue. Now I'm using this sapphire blue, but any blue would do. One drop into a wash, you get the picture, don't you? And spray them all over with the blue. As I say, about a 10-minute gap in between, just to let them dry a little bit. And once you've done that, take your varnish, use a matte varnish, really important, and splatter it across with the matte varnish. Make sure you're wearing your respiratory protection here, and if you've got a vacuum on your spray booth, use it. If not, use it in a well ventilated area. You do not want to be breathing this stuff in. I'm going to use some Wildling Flesh, and I'm going to use this as a wash. So just a drop of Wildling Flesh mixed with some water, and I'm going to put it on the areas of his face that need to be lightened up. So the top of his forehead is the first example. Now it's watery, so don't let that put you off. Just pop it on there, get a cotton bud or a Q-tip depending on where you are in the world, and just wipe it off again. And I'm going to do exactly the same on his cheeks there, and I'm going to just wipe it all off. So what you're doing here is you're building layers of a very fine paint just to lighten up areas where the light should be a little bit lighter on his face. And it's just a case of repeating the process, adding finer layers as you go along and building those areas that need to be lightened. Just take your time, look at it and see where you need to go. Now I've took a bit of leather brown, and again I've just used a toothbrush, quite a firm bristled toothbrush. I've watered the leather brown down. I've took a lot of that paint off on the kitchen towel, and I'm going to just sprinkle some brown dots across his face, adding a few of those idiosyncrasies onto the skin. Again, you know, keep going with this. You can put as much as you like on, don't overdo it though. And when you've reached your capacity there, when you think you've done enough, or if you've done too much, or if you don't like where it is, just get your Q-tip or your cotton bud, dampen it and wipe it off, and there we go. And that's added a little bit of character to Han Solo's face there. Now for the eyes, I've mixed a little bit of blue into some white to just get a really off-white colour, and I'm just going to paint the whites of his eyes now. Now this model has got the eyes already sculptured in, and they're holes. I don't like these kind of models where there's holes where the eyes are, so I can't really paint those bits white, so I'm just doing the outer layers of the eyes white, making sure I don't get it all over that hard worked on flesh. For his lips, I've just mixed some skin colour, some brown and some red, and I'm just going to pop a layer of that across his lips. I am going to lighten that up a little bit later and add a few light effects. I don't want it too light. I don't want it to look like he's got a bit of lippy on. I just want a nice natural lip colour. Now just remember that the lips are quite reflective, so once you've got the shade on, use a nice thin brush to pull some lines down in a darker pink just to add those ridges into them. And now I'm going to move to a very pale colour, and I'm just going to add where the light would naturally sit on the bottom lip there. Back to the eyes now. Now it's all dried, I'm going to take some black and I'm going to paint the pupils, his irises in, just working into the gaps that are already there in the mould. Again, these are like holes in the eyes, and I really don't like these, but it is what it is, and sometimes you've got to do the best you can with what you've got in front of you. So get that black in there until you're happy it's covered the areas all over. And while I've got the black there, I'm going to put some darkness above the top ridge of the eye, just going over the top lid on both of his eyes from edge to edge, just to add a natural shadow look. Just remembering that the eyes above are going to be darker because of the brow and the light not being able to reach them. I'm doing the same on both eyes, just working at the top of it, and there we go, that's added a shadow, a natural shadow. Now I'm going to take a pink colour and I'm going to do exactly the opposite on the bottom of the eyes. So where the edge of the eyes is at the bottom, just above the lid, I'm going to pull a pink right the way across. This wouldn't be dark because of the shadow and the way the light would hit it, and it would look natural that the inner part of the eyelid would be pink, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm also going to take that pink and just put his tear ducts in, just in the corner of his eye, and pull it into the white ever so slightly. Using some leather brown for the inner parts of his iris. Now his eyes are like a hazel colour, so I'm going to start with the brown and I'm just going to paint the inner parts of his eyes, leaving a very thin black layer of the iris on there. It's not the final colour for his eyes, because a hazel colour is a mixture of brown and green, and that's what I've done here. I've took a little bit of orc skin and I've just mixed it in to give him a lovely hazel colour. It's brown, it's green, it's all melded into one. Looks really, really nice. Quite pleased with that. There we go. Pupils wise, I'm just going to take a dollop of black paint on a thin brush and literally poke him in the centre of each eye to add that pupil. And that's job done for the eyes. Now for his eyebrows, I'm using some leather brown and I'm using a thin brush and I'm just putting lines across to mark his eyebrows, and I'm going to use a little bit of black as well just to cross line them, just to make them stick out a little bit further. And there's his eyebrows on, and they've just framed the eyes lovely. And I'm just going to use that same leather brown watered down to just paint some of the ridges on his face, and I'm going to get that cotton bud, damped cotton bud, and I'm just going to wipe that off and merge it in so it's not like two lines, it's more of a merged in brown mark. Exactly the same with underneath his eyes where the darker shadows. He's had some sleepless nights, old Han Solo, and I'm going to just blend that in also. For the hair, leather brown as a base layer, using a really thin brush to touch between the flesh and the hair. I want a nice even line. I don't want it straight, I want it to be a little bit jagged, but I want to make sure I get the hair all coloured in that leather brown. And I'm using my narrow brush for this to hit all those points, and when I'm happy that that's done, I'm going to get a nice big brush and I'm going to dollop on the paint and I'm going to cover his hair in that brown till everything's covered. What I didn't catch on video at the end of that was this skeleton colour actually, and I highlighted it, the top of his hair using a dry brush. I didn't catch that on video, but I did also do that, and that skeleton bone I'm going to be using for his shirt. So nice big brush again, taking my time so I don't get it all over the flesh, and I'm going to colour his shirt in that skeleton bone colour. And there we go, that's all finished now. Taking black for his jacket, I'm just going to cover it all over. Now you can see the damage on the jacket there where it didn't print properly, but it actually looks like it could be part of the print, so I'm going to get away with that one. I'm going to try and get away with that one anyway. I'm sure you'll criticise me, but you know what? I don't care. I'm going to get away with it. And that's him. Han Solo's pretty much done, apart from a little bit of gloss in both of his eyes, some Vallejo gloss, one in each eye, and also don't forget his lips, and Han Solo's done. Don't forget to subscribe to Old Greedy 3D, and I'll see you for the next video. Here he is. Here's Han Solo.